Listen, before we get started, please, as you guys know, we are on a race to 1,000 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, hit the thumbs up. And if you'd like someone else to see this, please share. And don't forget to hit that bell notification so you don't miss an upload here on Daily Decoded. Welcome back, Decoders. It's your boy Vernon with Daily Decoded. So, breaking news, or something. Looks like early this morning, late last night, it looks like we may be in a position where we may get a bit of a peace memorandum or some kind of a extended ceasefire or an extension of the ceasefire there in Iran. But of course, with any of these deals, we have to be mindful that the pro-Israel war hawks and the Israelis themselves are going to have a major part to play in this whole thing. And so I want to take a look at Crystal and Sagar. They're going to interview Trita Parsi. And let's get an understanding more in depth of exactly what is going on here, if there's a real peace deal in place, or is this more of the same where the U.S. postures like they want to make a deal only to give us more time to then turn around and break said deal by bomb. So let's take a look at Crystal and Sagar. They're interviewing Trita Parsi over at Breaking Points. Please, I'm going to leave a link to Breaking Points. Make sure you go check them out. They're an amazing channel. I watch them every day. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Morning, everybody. Happy Sunday morning. We have a special edition here of Breaking Points. You know, there's a lot going on for our premium subscribers about our shift over to Supercast, but we did have to jump on with our great friend, Dr. Trita Parsi, to break down this potential new deal between Donald Trump and the Iranians after significant regional effort. It does appear at this moment, I guess it's 9 a.m. on Sunday, that a deal may be imminent with all of the caveats that entails. So, Dr. Parsi, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and start off. Crystal, can we see the truth? I can read it for everybody. I will skip the long introduction names of all of the foreign leaders that were name checked here by Donald Trump. But what we see here is I am in the Oval Office. We had just had a very good call. All of these different leaders. Here's what he says, is that concerning the Islamic Republic of Iran, all things related to a memorandum of understanding pertaining to peace. And
I want to say something really quick before they continue. Why does Trump do this? Like, it's like, brother, you don't, like, you're the president of the United States. You're quite possibly the most powerful person on the planet. And you tweet and truth like you have nothing else to do. And then it's always this long, drawn out post. Like, bro, get a life.
Agreement has largely been negotiated, subject to the finalization between the USA, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and other countries. Separately, I had a call with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel, which likewise went very well. Final aspects and details of the deal are being discussed. In addition to many other elements of the agreement, the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, Dr. Parsi, just give us your breakdown here of what you note from the Trump truth and some of the emerging details around this so-called memorandum of understanding, which we believe will last some 60 days.
So first of all, there's no misspellings. There is no grammatical errors. There's no attempt at humiliating any side. He's got the title and the names of each of these different world leaders correct. And I'm mentioning this because before we have seen on numerous occasions true social posts by the president in which he says, hey, we're really close. And it's not a serious post. It is time to work well with the markets, to manipulate the markets. It doesn't have any indication that anyone else has reviewed the post in any way, shape, or form. This clearly was not written by him alone, although it does have his flavor to it as well towards the end. More importantly, though, when you take a look at all the different world leaders that he consulted with before coming to this conclusion, it's very important because it shows, what he's trying to do over here is to say, look, we're doing this in tandem with a lot of these different world leaders. And it is true. Many of them have been pushing very hard for this. Some of them have played a crucial role in the background to mediate this compromise that is being reached. Pakistan and Qatar, in particular, in the later phases of this. But he also gives them a certain degree of protection here in Washington. We saw the massive meltdown of warmongers last night when this was first announced, and even before it was announced, when they were getting no.
You know, those are some key points he made. Number one, the fact that that in his truth, he didn't insult anyone, right? He didn't have the grammatical errors, the all caps, and things that he likes to do when you know that it's Donald Trump posting. And in this one, he didn't do all that. And he didn't insult anyone. He didn't insult the Iranians. So I think Dr. Parsi makes a good point there when he says that Trump probably did not write that. He probably had someone else in the administration do it for him.
Noticed that this was coming. They were just in a public panic. And this is despite the fact that they got 2 wars, they got every conceivable sanction in place, they got the worst rhetoric from Trump, they got efforts to assassinate leaders inside the country, send the weapons into there's nothing on the wish list of these warmongers that have not been tried, and it has failed miserably. Yet they're in a.
Yeah, these people really want us to be in forever wars because their donors, their backers make billions, if not, they make billions and billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions, right? And of course, their other backer, Israel, wants to be the number one hegemony. They want to be the number one country in the region. The Greater Israel Project is a real thing. They want to expand their borders to where they are the superpower in the Middle East. And the only way they can do that is through the backing of the United States, by having us fight their proxy wars on their behalf, by having us attack the other countries in the GCC, the Gulf country allies or states, right? That's the objective, is to have us go in and be the big brother on the block. So whenever the little brother, Israel, goes around and picks fights, we come in and actually fight the real fight on their behalf. And that stuff has been going on for the last 40 years. And we've got to stop it, because at the end of the day, it's not the warmongers, it's not the war hawks, it's not the IDF that has boots on the ground fighting these wars. It's young men and women from America and American allies who end up dying in these wars that are unnecessary.
The panic over the fact that their miserable failure is now going to be abandoned and going to go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
But in that context, for him to be able to say, look, I'm doing it because all of these regional leaders are asking me to do this, is very important, not just to be able to show the regional anchoring of this, but also to be able to deflect of the criticism that invariably come, which is, you abandon Israel. Well, perhaps Israel had abandoned the United States by, manipulating the United States into this war in the first place. But nevertheless, Israel is not the only country in the region that the United States has some form of a partnership with. And
that's a fact. Like, we've got to stop treating Israel like they're our only ally in the region. They're one of many. But for some reason, we give them this special treatment. And like Dr. Parsi said, Israel abandoned us when they brought that stupid PowerPoint and sat the president down and gave him false information, because even Obama said that Benjamin Netanyahu did the same thing to him, tried to get him to go in and attack Iran. And we didn't. And thank God we didn't. But of course, he gets Trump to do it. And then he wants to hide his hands like, I didn't do anything.
They cannot be the only country that counts. And he's there listing all of these different countries that are going, are telling him to go in this direction, seek a peace, put an end to this conflict, because it's devastating for the entire region and for the global economy. So all of this, I think, in and of itself was showing this is much more serious than the previous instances. And then we do have confirmation, both from some of these leaders in the region, as well as from the Iranians, that something is very imminent.
So let's talk about what we know, the contours of the deal. You have a great piece up at your Substack, which is called Tree to Parsi, eponymously named. Is that the word? Is that the way you use it? In any case,
Think so.
everybody should
Yeah.
go and subscribe to see your analysis there, which elaborates on your important post that you also put on Twitter that we all follow very closely. So in any case, you've got a great headline here: Warmongers in meltdown as Trump heralds Iran deal. And you talk about some of the reported details. You say the full details remain somewhat unclear, but according to reporting by Amwaj Media, much of which I've independently corroborated, the agreement entails a comprehensive cessation of hostilities, including in Lebanon, the gradual release of Iran's frozen assets, and an end to America's blockade of the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, maritime traffic through the
And that's a key one. That's a key, right? So let's kind of break that down real quick. I want to get back to this. First of all, the agreement entails including the hostilities in Lebanon. That's saying, hey, we're going to put a leash on Israel and tell them to back down. Because it's Lebanon where Israel did this secondary strike, right, to try to kind of keep things going because they're attacking Hezbollah there in Lebanon. And Iran has been very clear. They will defend Hezbollah in Lebanon. And so Israel, first they poked us to go to Iran. Then they started attacking Lebanon so that they could get us to go there as well. Because again, remember, Israel's whole goal is the Greater Israel Project. They want to expand their borders. And they want us to go in and basically topple all these different regimes in the region so that they can expand and then have that control over all that land. Not America, but Israel. Another piece here, right? They want to gradually release Iran's frozen assets. This is the same thing that, let's be clear, Republicans, MAGA particularly, judged Barack Obama for doing, right? President Obama for doing. President Obama released Iranian funds that had been held since the 70s from a deal that we did with them to provide them weapons. We never provided the weapons, but we kept their money. And that money, because it was in an interest-bearing account per law, when we gave it back to them, was something like, I think, $2 billion. But it was their money. It was never our money. And Republicans bashed Obama with the JCPOA and said, oh, we gave them billions of dollars. We didn't pay them. We gave them what was rightfully theirs. And so for Trump to be doing the same thing that he has literally judged and bashed President Obama for doing is peak hypocrisy, right? And of course, getting rid of the blockade of the blockade. Listen, we blockaded the Strait, but the Strait was already shut down. So we pretty much just, it's really more symbolic than anything, right? It's kind of dumb because Iran controls the Strait. That's just a fact. And no matter how much we want to blockade it, they did it first. And it was never closed on February 26th before we bombed them on the 27th. So that's just, yeah.
Strait would resume under joint Iranian and Omani oversight. Once these measures take effect, the parties would have an additional 30 days to negotiate a final agreement. That second stage accord is expected to address both the nuclear issue and the long-term status of the Strait. Significant progress, however, already appears to have been made on the nuclear file, and as I understand it, broad principles for its resolution have largely been agreed upon. So both the Iranians and Trump saying that they are close to an agreement. We do not have official word yet. What are some of the sticky or thorny issues laid out in your piece here that could still derail progress?
Well, I think the main problems are going to come in the second phase, because if we take a look at what this memorandum of understanding ultimately does, it really brings us back to where we were supposed to be
Right.
when the first ceasefire was struck. It was supposed to be regional. Lebanon was supposed to be included. There was not supposed to be a blockade of the blockade. The Strait was going to be open, but it will be under Iranian control for that moment. So we're going back to where we were supposed to be before FDD sold Trump on this idea of a blockade of the blockade, which then created all of these additional problems and further weakened the U.S.'s position.
Understand what he's saying is that we are now getting what we would have gotten probably months ago. But instead, Trump was convinced that if you just do a blockade, they'll crumble. They'll give you everything you want. And that just doesn't make sense. just like whatever deal we get now, let's be clear. Whatever the final deal that we get from Iran to completely stop the war completely will be worse than whatever we had under the JCPOA. Let's be clear. The JCPOA, and according to credible sources, the Iranians were willing to give Trump a better deal than they agreed to with President Obama through the JCPOA. But now they know they are in a position of strength. They know they have humiliated the world superpower on a very public stage. And so they now have the cards in their favor. And so we will end up in a situation where we get a worse deal, they get more control, and I'm confident that they're going to race to a nuclear weapon to ensure that this never happens again.
And then we have now, but on top of that, there's two other things. A commitment for a final deal within 30 days. It could be extended to 60, as well as some sanctions release of Iranian assets in the interim, which seems to be some sort of a goodwill measure that Trump had to give to the Iranian side. But the real test is going to come in the second phase, because that's when they're going to have to resolve the nuclear issue. The question of the stockpile is still one that is not resolved, although there's been movement in the right direction. That's going to be tied to a final resolution to the status of the Strait of Hormuz, which also is not fully resolved in this interim stage. So there's still a lot. And on top of that, I know 30 days is not a lot of time, but my God, it gives the Hawks plenty of opportunities to try to do everything they can to sabotage this deal. The one thing I point out, though, in my piece is that we may not see that high of a decibel coming from the Israeli side, from Israeli officials. You will have massive decibel, of course, from their proxies in Washington, D.C. But from the Israeli officials' standpoint themselves, they may have to choose to be a bit more careful. And the reason for that is that they are now entering into their election season. And Trump remains very popular in Israel, and as a result, can damage any politician in Israel that chooses to publicly confront Trump over this issue.
Right.
That is powerful. That is a very powerful perspective, right? We definitely know that moving forward over this next 30 or 60 days, I think it's 30 days, so this next 30 days, all the war hawks, all the anti-peace deal people like the Lindsey Grahams in particular, who are not going to pick up a gun and fight, right? They're going to come out, John Fetterman's, right? They're going to come out and they're going to knock this deal. They're going to say, they're going to say things like, "Oh, we're capitulating to the devil. We're negotiating with terrorists. We can't trust the IRGC." I looked over at Benny Thomas this morning at his stream, and in the comments section, it was just people saying that, "Oh, they've done this for 40 years. You can't trust them. You can't make a deal with the devil." It's like MAGA pundits and these people cannot come to the understanding that we have to make a deal. We attack these people unnecessarily. We had a deal in place. Trump got us out of it. The strait was open. He attacked. They closed it. Everything that has happened subsequently has made American citizens' lives worse. We have to make a deal. And these war hawks, these warmongers, the military-industrial complex is going to push and push and push to force Donald Trump to feel humiliated. And we know he doesn't have the continence or the wherewithal to take a loss. He can't take the L. It's not in his nature. And so they're going to push him to feel like he's been humiliated. They're going to dig into that. And Israel, because they're going into elections, they know Trump is kind of a kingmaker in Israel right now. So they're going to be kind of cool and calm in the background. But I guarantee you, their proxies here in this country, the Ben Shapiro's, the Mark Levin's, right, the Lindsey Grahams, they're going to be pushing Trump publicly to not do this deal. Why? Because they want us in a perpetual war. because they want, again, I'm going to keep beating it over your heads. They want the Greater Israel Project where they can expand their borders and be the global hegemony in the Middle East. That's their goal. And it doesn't matter how many American lives are lost as long as they get what they want in the Middle East. And all these America firsters who claim that we do this for Israel or make America better are full of crap. And that's just a fact. So we got to stay vigilant. We got to, I'm hopeful, but I'm not naive. I hope that Donald Trump will do the deal, but I'm not foolish enough to think that he's not going to let his ego reign supreme. So my prayer is that God intervenes and moves him to make the deal, or that, or at the very least, that he understands that for his own image and his own what do you call those? His own polls, his polling, that he decides to do what's right for the American people and take the deal and eat this L, because that's ultimately what's going to be. Guys, we definitely have to keep an eye out on things. Obviously, I'm going to, stay abreast of it and see what's going on. I hope he takes a deal. I mean, there's really no two ways around it, right? We're in a very fragile state right now. And if he doesn't do what's best for the American people and takes the deal, gets peace in the Middle East to the best of our ability, right? Stop this war. Just stop it. I think that if we don't do this now, there's going to be no chance to do it in the future. And I'll even say this. I'll even make this claim. I think if Trump takes the deal, we will see increased hostilities in Cuba, because he's going to have to get a win somewhere. So don't be surprised if he takes the deal and we go into Cuba. Or if he lets the warmongers, the neocons, the Israeli proxies to get in his ear and make him feel humiliated, we're going to bomb Iran. I think those are the two outcomes that we have. I don't think that we get out of this with clean hands in any way. Make sure you guys check out Breaking Points to see the rest of the video. I'll leave the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. I know there are a billion other YouTube channels out there that you could have clicked onto, so I truly appreciate you taking the time to come over here. We are working. We are trying to get to that magic goal of 1,000 subscribers. Look, and I know we can work together to do it. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. If you like this channel, subscribe. It costs you nothing and means the world to me. If you want to engage in the commentary, or if you got something that you like me to cover, leave it in the comment section. There's a lot more content coming to bring the goals and the news to fruition. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. As always, stay safe, stay vigilant, stay dangerous, and look, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.